I hereby call the workshop meeting to order at this time. We'll have a roll call.
Commissioner Hughes,
Here.
Commissioner Mosier,
Here.
Commissioner Richardson,
Here.
Commissioner Jinks, Commissioner Stutz.
Here.
Okay. Get into our business. Our school director, Rodney Borf, is here to present the budget for the Board of Education. And Rodney, at this time, I'll turn it over to you. Yeah, well, we did have a microphone over there.
Sonya's got it.
I'm probably loud enough. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having me. This is, fortunately for me, it's getting to be a habit. Been here, I guess, my 11th time, maybe, something like that, 10th or 11th. Feel it is a great honor to represent Sweetwater City Schools and Sweetwater Board of Education. It's a wonderful job to have, and very fulfilling at times and very tough at other times. So, but I'm very fortunate to be here as long as I have been. Kind of go just some bits and pieces and leave some time for some discussion. We have been blessed over the past 10 or 11 years, or I have, I guess, to be able to give raises. And I figured it up over the last few years, I think 4, that I've been able to go back and trace. We've given over 20% of raises to our staff over those 4 years. I feel like that's pretty good. I'm very proud to be able to say that, and that's attributed to a lot of different things. The finances that are provided by the city and by the state, and we've done a pretty decent job of managing that and been able to give back to our staff. And so pretty proud to say that. I remember when I was a principal, 2 of the 3 years that I was, 2 of my 3 years out of 6, we didn't get a raise at all. So I'm pretty happy to be able to say that in the past 4 years we've given over 20% raise, 20 percentage points of raises to our staff. We're at the point now where we're giving hiring bonuses to our hardest staff at the rate of $2,000, and hardest staff, things like special education teachers, English language arts teachers, school psychologists, math teachers. Before, when you would post a position, you probably would have 7 or 8 choices to choose from or to interview. And now I know I had a school psychologist position that was posted for a year and a half that we couldn't fill. And so that's just kind of the state of education. It's not just Sweetwater, it's everywhere. I think COVID did a lot of things to a lot of different companies and district things, and obviously education was one thing that's really been hit hard with. And I think we're kind of seeing some recovery, but and you guys are thinking, what's that got to do with budget? But it has a lot to do with budget, because we're able to give money back and try to utilize the money that we've been able to put back for rainy day funds to be able to give those people bonuses. And people now are expecting, give me some money, I'm not coming. And so we're fortunate that we can do that when other districts are so tight with their budgets. They're not able to do that, so we can pull some of those folks. And so pretty blessed in that regard. Our enrollment is up, continues to grow. We had a little time after COVID that we were kind of stagnant, but we're doing pretty well on enrollment. We currently have 6 positions that are open, which is not that unusual. The good thing I look at when we have position turnovers is, are they leaving mad? Are they leaving to go somewhere for more money? Or, what's the point of them leaving? A lot of them are for, I think, 3 of the 6 have kids who are entering school, and have gotten opportunities to go to their home districts where their kids are going to school, so it's not really they're leaving mad. Some of them may be leaving mad because they weren't doing what we needed them to do, so we were trying to replace them, or we are going to replace them. So we have 6 positions open. Buildings, I think you'd have to agree that are in pretty good shape. I feel like we collectively as a group did a pretty good job of managing our federal money to the point where we Every building we have has a new roof on it. Majority of what we have has new HVAC, and those are the two most important things. Every time I come to this board and talk about it, two things that hit us the hardest, HVAC and roofs. So we're in really good shape in those areas with our roofs, HVAC. Other than that, I mean, we don't necessarily at this point need any building projects, although that may come up in the near future if we continue to have growth, which that's a good thing. We always want to do that. We definitely have a better understanding of TISA funding. Those of you that's heard me talk about it, it used to be Basic Education Plan, which is BEP. Now it's TISA, where it's TISA Investment in Student Achievement. And I say that to say this: we get, I think it increased 1,000 this year, or a little bit, almost 1,000, from where it was to $7,295 per kid. And of course, there's some things that are tied to that kid too, based on special needs or something like that, or some of those things. But I say that because that's a huge part of our budget, is getting money to help offset the cost of educating that child. So TISA is $72.95 a kid. We're in our second year of custodial services. Really debated on whether we wanted to do a custodial service because it's pretty expensive. But in our current situation, we have limited storage. So when you're trying to store 50 cases of toilet paper, 50 or 60, 70 cases of rolled paper towels, it's just better to try to do it all in one lump sum and have a company to come in and you pay them. And it's expensive, but you don't have employee cost. So there are a lot of benefits to it, and there's, we're still learning. It's a learning curve. It's a growing opportunity for us, but this is our second year having a custodial service. I bargained with them a little bit to keep them down some, but I think that's $575,000 a year, which when you compare that to what it was costing us before, I think it's about a little over $100,000 increase. So this is our second year. We've managed it pretty well, and we're going to keep trying it until maybe we figure out we're not getting the worth of it. And so right now I feel we're pretty good. This is our third year of hiring a company to do our substitutes, which has really helped. Again, it helps us on part-time employee cost. We have a company we call, and they do all the hiring, they do all the recruiting, and we hire them to come in, and we basically just put it down on the computer that we need a substitute for the day, and it's taken care of for the most part. So this is our third year, something like that, third or fourth year. This particular year, we're looking to buy a special education bus, one of the little ones at $95,000. I know when we bought one not too long ago, it was a 2-year process, and it was basically during COVID. But this one is supposed to get to us fairly quickly. The two that we have will age out. I think you're allowed to have them for 14 years. Both of ours would go out at the same time. The current buses that we have would go out at the same time, so I felt like we had a transmission to go out, and I had to borrow a bus from the county, which was always, I don't know, I just feel pretty uncomfortable borrowing somebody's bus. No offense, because I was there, but especially when it don't say Sweetwater City Schools on the side of it. But they were very gracious to let us use it, but I thought, with our buses getting some age potential for issues, I thought it was a good time because we had a little money that we were able to buy another bus, and then we wouldn't have to buy two at the same time. That was the plan. So that should be within that's probably news to Janet, because I haven't really sprung that on her yet. Told her that it was potentially coming, but I'm telling you now it's going to happen. So bringing a new program called Capturing Kids' Hearts. Several of our folks have gone to trainings on this, and they were so sold on the importance of it that they encouraged me to go to a 3 or 4 day training, I think it was. And I was really sold on it and feel like that's going to be something that's really good. It helps to properly and productively motivate, mature, and discipline. Helps our teachers motivate, mature, and discipline our students. Lots of things districts around us are doing it, so I went and talked to them, and they're just really sold on that. So that's coming in at this year at roughly $70,000 for that program. And then the last thing I'll talk about is the teacher bonuses that I'm sure everybody saw, as a result of the new voucher program. Our board voted to be a part of that resolution to say that we'd take the $2,000. We didn't necessarily agree with the purpose of it. So that's going to happen this year with our teachers getting $2,000, and I found out that that's the only raise that some districts, or at least one close to us, is given, is only that one-time bonus of the only certified teachers. And I'm glad we're not in the shape to where we have to do that, because that would be tough. So along with that there's a lot of really strict regulations tied to that, only certified teachers, which leaves out your admin, your non-certified staff. So our board decided that we were going to give everybody something, and so I'm happy that we're able to do that. But anyway, that's a quick synopsis of our plan for next year. Anybody have any questions for me related to the budget?
What's the percentage that's up this year from last year?
Percentage of
Increase.
what we put back, or what we?
Well, from
What
last
it's
year's
costing us?
budget to the proposed budget this year, 5%, 10%?
It's actually down, right,
Yeah.
from current year.
I was
Budget's
thinking
down about
it's
flat, actually.
I was thinking flat or just a little bit less.
Yeah.
So not much of a difference between what we presented last year.
What about enrollment, Rodney? Are you seeing rise or fall in?
We are. I think I feel like we're going to be up in enrollment now. A lot of that depends on what happens with our kindergartners, because I'm telling you, in the 11 years, 10 years, 11 years, whatever it is, you can roll out a percentage of what it's going to be, and every single year you're within 15 to 20 students, and I don't know how that is and how crazy that is, but I think at this particular year we're seeing more commitment of kindergartners coming in than we have seen. So that's a good thing, because we have had it to where, I think it's usually about, let's say 125 pre-register. So you can figure 160 by the time you get to the end of the year, or time you get to the beginning of the school year. This year we're like more like 140, 150 pre-registered, and then you'll have another additional, I think 25 or 30 show up, August 1st.
Overall, student population, is it staying flat, or is there a decline? Not just in incoming kindergarten,
we stay
but
right around 1,500, give or take. It's 1,450 or 60 or 1,530, so a good average is around 15. Obviously, not that you want to see kids, because $7,295
Sure.
tied to it, but you want to see more.
Right.
As a director of schools, you want to see a lot of kids enrolled in your school.
But based on kind of where we're at, a lot of times you hear about going south or going north, and I was just curious, is that reflected in the numbers of people coming, or students coming and going?
Where they come from, I have no idea, because we lose some every year. We lose them to private schools. We lose them to home schools. But it seems like they come from somewhere. and, you know, it always, like I said, it always kind of balances out to be around 1,500. You know, and there was a scare at one point about, you know, Hispanic population. When all that came about, we lost a few, but it seems like we gained some of those that we lost, not necessarily per person, but we've gained numbers right back. So, you know, you never know how that's going to work out, but we've been pretty fortunate that we haven't lost a lot of those.
Just some of the surrounding and some of the clients that we work with, they are seeing a decline, and obviously decline means you're losing that 7,200, which Janet's got to find it from somewhere. But I was just curious, population wise, what you were seeing and what that might look like.
Well, and like I said, I'd be very shocked if it's not somewhere around 1450, 1475, because that's typically where we have started, and I haven't seen anything to indicate that that's about to change a whole lot.
That was the projected totals at the last board meeting. I think Dr. Vance presented, and it was right around that 1,500 mark. It had dipped a few years through COVID, gotten down around 1,380, 1,400, COVID, homeschool. But then over the last 2 years, it's been trending back up. And I think Dr. Vance's last projections were just shy of 1,500. So it's kind of on the hooks.
Glad you remember that, because I was.
Still trapped.
Is that 7,200 continue into high school, or is there an age out to when that stops?
Well, I'm sorry.
The 7,295?
Oh, it's a high school too. Yep. I would assume it's every public school kid is 7,295. Yeah.
Statewide for everybody.
Yep. And like I said, there's more. There's something called ULNs that are tied to the kids' ability to learn. You know, their learning plan, I guess, is probably a better way to say it. And some kids, like for instance, I would probably require more money to educate me than Mr. Moser over there would be.
We were in the same rowboat, Rodney. we're blessed to be sitting where we're standing.
Better believe it.
Okay, so you said, if I caught this right, that 7,295 used to be like $1,000.
No, it's up 1,000.
It's
It was
up
like
1,000.
60,
Okay.
maybe 67, 68, but it's not even really a complete 1,000.
I thought
Yeah.
that was.
So far, the new,
Oh my gosh,
the new
that's
TISA
huge.
formula is a little bit better than what BEP was before it.
Yes.
Well, it is. It's more money. It's obviously more money. But when you've done BEP, you kind of felt, well, you never could figure it out, and I think that was purposeful. But it just took a little bit, you know. And I'm not a big anti-change person, but it was scary at first. And I remember presenting it to this group, that I was nervous about it and not sure and not willing to give up a lot of money because I didn't know what was coming back. But as you get more comfortable with it, it is a better program. It really is, and it does provide more money, K through 12. Anything else?
I got one thing I want to say, Rodney.
Yes, sir.
Since Billy Wayne passed away and I took his spot as sitting on the school board, I've got nothing but compliments to you and your group of board members. Y'all do a fantastic job, and the kids are always number one in your priority. And I think that speaks great for y'all and what you do. And I understand Janet, she does a tremendous job on these finances, and I think you're all to be commended for it.
Well, I appreciate that. That means a lot for sure. And I will say this about our financial person that's in charge of their school district. I don't know if I need to say it, knock on wood. She is so precise in everything that she does financially. I mean, when you're dealing with substantial amount of money, you know, pennies, which we might not even have anymore after too long. She will fight you over a penny, and because of that, we have not had an audit finding as a district in how long?
Well, in a long time.
Yeah, and I think that says a lot to how dedicated she is to make sure it's done the correct way. And unfortunately for our folks, I'm not that precise, but I'm pretty conservative, and she's conservative. So between the two of us, maybe we're double conservative.
We've been accused of being cheap.
But I will say this: I've been compared to Dr. Hickey of conservative behaviors, and I definitely appreciate that. When they keep talking about being conservative and stingy, I've even been called stingy. I look back and think, I remember Dr. Hickey, and he was so well respected. Maybe at some point I'll get to that, just half that level. But yes, I'm very proud that we've been able to do what we've been able to do, and it's because of that one sitting right there, really. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Let me ask you a question. You've got SHS acquisition DOE meeting on June the 12th. Where will that be?
It's actually June
Central.
9th. Sorry, that's a typo on my fault.
That's my fault, because when I first put that out there, I even told our board attorney that it was June the 12th, and I had to text him today and say, no, it's June the 9th. It's at our Board of Education office, administrative office.
Still the 12th or the 9th?
It's the 9th. It will be the 9th.
What time?
6 o'clock.
Okay, thank you, Roger.
All right.
Good job.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jan. I give you permission to leave if you.
Thank you, sir.
Ball pass.
Did you tell Janet she could leave?
No, she's got to stay.
It was Janet's day off today, and she still came in for the meeting, so thank you, Janet.
Thank you. All righty, there's no one registered for public comments at this time. In the workshop discussion, we have a proposal on the homecoming bridge. Who would this be, Sam, Jessica?
Okay, so.
We'll tag team it.
Yeah, we've talked about the homecoming bridge on and off for months now. We are getting more calls and comments and people asking what the plan is and when we're going to get the bridge back open. I talked a little bit to Sam. I think I've also talked to Jim and Joanna about this just to see what kind of options we have going forward. It feels like at this point, due to what the cost would be to even attempt to make it ADA compliant or attempt to renovate that bridge like on a large scale, we already have the community center and the pool projects going. It feels like maybe it might be a better idea for us to do an immediate repair on it so that we can get it back open, since we know from the structural engineers that the piers are safe and sound. Maybe just have the street department do some work on it to replace the rotting boards and maybe the cabling, and then maybe apply for an RTP grant, which is a recreational trails grant. That next cycle will come up in the summer of 2027, so we could use Sam's proposals for what would need to be done from an architect and engineering standpoint. That kind of gets us closer to shovel ready, so they like to see that in the grant application, that work and that proposal and kind of what those costs will be. And talk at that time about possibly even just adding a different pedestrian bridge that is ADA compliant. That feels like it might be, I don't know, and Sam can answer this better than I can. It may not be possible to make the homecoming bridge ADA compliant. It may just be a renovation. So I think maybe our better option might be to wait until 2027 and apply for an RTP grant, which is, again, we can do a pedestrian bridge with that, but we can also do a connecting trail. So maybe at that point we want to connect it with a better path that connects to the community center or the visitor center or along A Street where the creek is. You know, maybe we want to put a sidewalk or a trail along there that people could ride bikes on or something. The RTP grant would allow for that, so a connecting trail plus the pedestrian bridge. So maybe that's an option, but this is kind of on here for discussion, so whatever you all want to talk about on that.
So that's kind of the planning, but from the design, I know you guys had approved structural to start 2 or 3 months ago, and what had happened to us, just so you know the process of how we're still where we're at, is to make those additions, to make the steps, to make the ramps, we needed a survey, and that took a month and a half just to get that. When that came back around, structural couldn't start, but in them not being able to start because we wanted to look at the ramp and how it would visually affect it, they wanted an architect's design versus a structural design. So that's why I came back with additional scope based on they were only looking at the physical bridge and what was there. They weren't going to design the other connector elements. And they weren't going to do, structural typically doesn't do bidding. So we had talked about putting it out to bid to get a price, but then look and see what the street department could do, because we have guys that are so gifted. So all of that has kind of over a 2 to 4 month period. That's why we're still standing still. And obviously that wasn't the point. That wasn't the point of discussion back then. It's unfortunately happened that way. And while this time has passed, weather has gotten better and better and better. And the more people that walk, the more people ask. Once again, optimist to a fault. I think we look at option, and David and Joanna, if you guys are the ones taking it on, I think we look at an option to see if there is a way on that slope to do a step design. It's not ADA accessible now anyway. If we could at a minimum take it from that top taper and where it slopes down, look at from that top taper down, could we at least fabricate a set of stairs that we could apply?
This is so weird. Y'all share a brain. David just said earlier today that he thought when he went down and looked at it today that the better option might be to add more steps up on the ramp side. It's not ADA anyway.
Right.
We're gonna look at it Friday
Yeah,
and see what we can do.
try to come up with a
So I do have the exact elevation points. So we know based on survey GPS from platform to point of slope. So when you do that, holler at me, and I, like I say, optimist to a fault. I'm hopeful that we could at least, in resurfacing what's there, look at using that area to put steps.
It would make it less of a slip hazard to
Yes.
have more steps there, which the slip hazard is the issue. But also, I'm a mom pushing a stroller. Right now, I can lift that stroller up over 3 steps and then roll it over the ramp.
You're gonna have to
It's
pull it
hellacious,
down
but I
piles
can
it
do it.
down.
Yeah, you're not really going to be able to do that now. You're going to have steps that you're going up on both
But
sides.
for
But that may be the better solution as far as safety goes.
my fear has always been slips and falls and us being liable, at least with steps that
Right.
meet riser and tread height. It eliminate
I just wanted this, and that's what I said to David earlier today, because I didn't realize that was part of your scope also, was the step thing. I just was listening to David say it. I just wanted everyone to be aware that that's what it would become, is more steps. So the way we solve the slip problem is adding steps. So you might have someone complain and say, well, now it's so hard for me to get, I don't think anybody's using a wheelchair over it anyway. Right now it would be so hard to use a wheelchair over
they
it.
can't.
A stroller would probably be
but
the only thing that people complain about. And I do think the ultimate goal is still to have a level, flat, ADA compliant pedestrian bridge. Maybe something like what we have over near High Street in front of Willow Creek. You know,
That would be
if we could
ideal.
add something like that in the same area, you know, you can have both of them if you want. But
But once again, just the backstory, the hurdles, where we're at, what we're getting called about. Quicker temporary fix, I guess, is the.
I do have a few questions. First of all, the grant that you're talking about that we hope to apply for in 2027, is that one of the grants that takes like 5 years to implement?
that one will be a 3-year term. They will only allow you take 3 years on it. It does not require a full environmental, since it is just a trail. So you're not actually, well, a trail and a bridge. The bridge can be part of the trail. You're not, it's the same department, TDEC, that does the LPRF grant. So can it make it take longer because you're using grant money? Absolutely. But that is one of the grant,
That's the next topic.
it's not a 5-year like a CDBG, and you don't have to do a full environmental on it like a CDBG. With an LPRF grant and an RTP grant, you can actually do an RTP grant while you have an open LPRF grant too, which is another thing that's different from some of the other grants is you can run those two grants parallel. I don't have to close out one before I'm allowed to apply for the other. So it's not gonna hurt any of our other grant funding chances. I think our TP grants might only be a 90-10, which means we only have to pay 10% and the grant pays 90. Worst case scenario, it's 80-20. So the LPRF grants are 50-50. So it's a much better grant if it's just used for a trail. So that's why I'm proposing to apply for that in 2027 for it. It moves a little bit faster. It's still not fast like Joanna Jinks wants it to be fast. It's not fast like Jessica Morgan wants it to be fast. But
I was
for a
thinking
grant,
more
it's
of
one of the
our-
less painful ones.
Of our little repair that we're doing, obviously we're gonna need to have it last at least 5 years because that will be to 2030.
Yeah, you should probably bank on 5 years.
Yeah, so, you
Because
know.
if we apply for it in 2027, they don't even award it until December of 2027. You can't start probably until the summer of 28. So,
Just so we know when the real bridge will come in,
Yeah.
that's fine. I also would like to say though, I know that some people are upset that we closed the bridge, but I still think it's the smartest thing that we've ever done considering how much rain we've gotten. That would have just, so many more slips and falls and stuff. So I know that people aren't happy, but I still think that it was the safest decision to make, to close that, because with all the rain and everything else, it would have just been even worse. So I still think it was a good plan, and yes, we have no problems doing the bridge. This
and
is-
everyone's okay with the step design. It's the safer one. It's
That's what it's all about, is removing the slip hazard. I mean,
Okay,
once
well, let's
again-
be ready to vote on next Monday.
I don't even think we have anything to vote on because as far as the budget goes, we would probably take it out of miscellaneous. And if it gets to the point where it's more than what we have budgeted, then we'll come back to the board and say, we're gonna need more money than what this is. So I
we
think,
won't vote on to go ahead and do it.
I don't think so unless y'all wanna put it on as an item to vote on.
Seems like a decision's already been made.
Discussion's been made.
I was hoping it'd be done by Monday.
David,
Might be late Tuesday.
David, do it.
Are you moving the time? Because
David don't care to work till 12, 1 o'clock. Okay. Updates from Jessica.
Okay, speaking of CDBG grants, the community center. So we received 2 grants for the community center so far. One is around $600,000 or $700,000. It's a Connected Communities grant. It's going to help with the furnishings, the Wi-Fi, the stage, equipment inside, one of the classrooms. The other grant is $1.6 million. It's a CDBG grant, Community Development Block Grant. Every time there's a federal election and there's turnover at the federal level, CDBG has changes to it. One of the changes that's been recently made involves HUD and the floodplain floodway. There is one, and I'm talking about a 3-foot corner of this building that is in the floodway,
Way.
not the floodplain. So the visitor center was in the floodplain. There's our visitor center. We had to elevate it a foot up off the ground. You can see how it's elevated. So we went back to CDBG, who said, oh, this is in the floodway. We can't do anything. Big red stop sign. Because we're halfway through an environmental study on it, which is required by the CDBG grant. And that's what they've come up with. And they're right. There is a corner of this that's in the floodway. So we've come back with 4 alternate proposals. One would be tear the building down, build it back 5 feet further west. Yes.
Before you continue, the big red stamp on this is, you know, the old saying, free money ain't free. All of these requirements are based off of all the federal requirements that go along with this CDBG. Before, when we were moving forward, we checked with insurance, we changed the design. Everything that was added after the fact was out of the floodway and only in the floodplain connecting to the existing building. What has thrown the brakes on it truly is that corner. It's floodway has a whole nother layer than floodplain. Okay, so to use this money, that floodway is a stipulation. So
So
To
we have
add
4
back to it.
options that we've thrown back to them
Is
in
that
a
what
meeting
changed?
last week.
yes,
They moved the floodway.
We didn't move the floodway. I mean, that little corner's been in the floodway. That since the building was built 50 years ago.
The board's been down.
Yes.
yes.
Yes,
20
it's
years.
been in the floodway.
Yes.
It's never flooded in 100 years. It's been in the floodway. But HUD has an issue with the renovation of a building in the floodway. So what we've replied back to them is tear down the building, build it back 5 foot more west so that it's only in the floodplain, not the floodway. That's option one. Option two is give them back the grant money and let us go ahead and do our community center without the grant. We're gonna have to borrow money on it anyway. The third option is, can we move this money, instead of using it on the community center grant, can we move it to use it on the pool grant? Because that project is still coming out of the general fund and is still probably gonna be, it's a 50-50 match on that one. So we've got plenty of money that we need to match on it. Will they just move and reallocate that money to the pool project instead of the community center project? And the last option was move the location. We are actually still going to ask if they will let us renovate that building and add permeable paving on the concrete side of this, because that is an improvement in the floodway. Instead of having flat concrete there, we'd have some permeable paving, so it would help absorb some of that waterway. I don't know if they'll approve that option, but those are the things we've sent back to them. They told us to get in contact with our local flood insurance coordinator. We don't really have to deal with that person much because the city has insurance through PEP that provides flood insurance on all of our buildings, whether they're in the floodway or not. So we don't really have to deal with flood insurance coordinators all that often, except for as a governing body. So we've reached out, Sam sent an email out to him earlier today. We're going to go through all the steps they ask us to go through. But if in the end the answer is this is so complicated, it's going to make us have to do things that are so much more expensive, it's not worth getting the grant money on, we will either give the grant money back or we will move it to the pool project if they'll let us do that. Which the last conversation with him, that sounded pretty
They were very
enticing
open.
to them. They sounded like they don't want us to give that money back. So, you know, we should always be willing to give that money back because they don't want to do that. So they want to help us figure out a way to use that money. So that's kind of where we are in the community center. It is not dead in the water. It is not, nothing's happening on it, but we are waiting on responses back from the federal government. So
How much money we talking about without the grant?
it's the grant is for 1.6 million.
How much money we talking about without the grant?
We don't know. We don't have construction bids yet. So 6 to 7 million is our best estimate on what the total overall project's going to be.
So the grant's just gonna be a small part of
Right.
it anyway.
Right. It's not a make or break deal. You're going forward with the project. The first they were asking us, can we move this to a different location? We were like, no, we don't own any other location that has enough land that we could build this on. And this is walkable and the location is right where we want it to be. And we've decided years ago this is where it was going to be. So
The one thing that's been frustrating for us, Jessica, during these meetings is we have parameters, we have options that we still can meet floodplain requirements. We just can't get any confirmation or verification from the grant individuals.
yes, this is
So-
only a question of whether the grant funding can be used on this, not whether the project can be done
So
at that location.
the last meeting that we had with them, I asked for who do we need to talk to that can make a ruling on this. So the next step and the next entity is HUD, who has these floodplain requirements. But before we even get a meeting set with HUD, the NFIP, is that the correct acronym? Coordinator, which is, flood insurance, we have to get them to investigate and make a ruling or a recommendation. So we're doing all of this to try and save the use of $1.6 million. Because we all know how far that would go to help obviously pay for this.
So we're going to exhaust all our options. We've asked them for a response to each one of those options. And then at some point we'll probably come back to the board and be like, okay, this is what we think is the best option and let you all know about it. But that leads me into the pool design and site plan, which is next on the agenda. So we can kind of talk about these two
Can I
things
ask
together.
A quick question?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Ask
How
away.
does pavers improve the floodway, but we couldn't have a building there? I
So
don't quite understand how that works.
So the other issue that they even had was changing an existing floodway. So in their mind, the concrete that is already there is an existing component. And they were even standoffish and wouldn't give us an answer about it. So when Jessica said permeable pavers, it's easier to say 3 times fast, is we're like, look, we're trying to go above and beyond and go from a non-porous to a porous type material that would allow stormwater to aka soak in. But they weren't
And in the
willing
list
to-
of HUD regulations for this grant, like number 6B or whatever it is, says what we will always let you do in the floodway is put in permeable pavers. Because they know that's a way that the water's being absorbed down into the ground. It's not causing a flood hazard or causing the flood waters to rise more. If you have a permeable paving surface, it's making that water sink down into the ground.
What about pervious concrete?
They might
Same
allow
thing.
that too,
I mean,
yeah.
it's-
It's any kind of permeable surface is what they mean. It's like a golden ticket to you can always do this in the floodway. Other than
So-
that, we're not gonna give you a firm answer. You gotta check on with someone.
So our next meeting is with HUD after meeting with NFIP coordinator, and it's getting all those lined up.
Also, if anybody's watching on the video and just has $1.6 million you want to give us, we'll quit messing with HUD and we'll just take your money instead. Just FYI.
So
The reason I said that leads into the pool design is if they agree that the only option is for us to allocate that money to the pool project at 1.6 million, that creates another set of issues, which is you only have 3 years to complete the pool project on the LPRF grant. We are almost a year into that project now, just for the design and environmental and everything that's been awarded on it from the contract date. So that gives us 2 years to finish construction, which is fine. We can do it in that. We're not worried about the time frame at this point. But if it takes them 6 months to do an environmental on it, then we start to go, uh-oh, are we going to have this pool open by next summer? Which is what our goal was from the beginning, was to only have it closed for 1 summer. So that's your first heads up on that. But the beauty of it is we have a design. This is the new pool house. It's over there on the board. If anybody from the public wants to come in and see it, you're more than welcome to. We have obviously more measurements and schematics. If you really want to know measurements on inside the building and all that stuff, we've got all that. But for now, this is the picture that you'll see, kind of the layout, the site plan, and the building. Sam, is there anything in particular you want to point out for this?
So one of the things that we will be doing is obviously the structure to the larger structure to the left is the new bathhouse. The structures to the right are the existing storage, existing equipment, and then you can see the slope roof beyond. We are basically going to do a new roof on concession equipment and storage to help this blend. The other element in obviously resurfacing the pool, we have some really good information. We've had three or four pool contractors that have come out that are interested and have means and methods to do all those repair. But in repairing the pool and doing a new bathhouse, we didn't want to just do those two components and not touch the 3 existing. So all structures that are up there are going to be dressed up, new wiring, new plumbing, so that moving forward, we have basically a brand new facility. That facility has served the community, believe it or not, for almost 50 years. And these changes and these improvements should give us that capability again. And then the other element to that is the individuals that have come to look at the resurfacing has also talked with us, and Sean, I don't know if Jessica shared this with you, is looking at getting a maintenance servicing plan in place as well. That could give some help and support with the plumbing system, the pipes, the pumps,
Sam's being
chemicals.
gracious about it. What it means is we've had different people who have not been pool experts over the Parks and Recreation Department at different times, and maybe they've used paint that wasn't supposed to be on concrete, or they've used paint that wasn't supposed to be in a pool. So we have layers and layers and layers of that stuff to break out, remove, start fresh. So with every contractor that we get a bid from, we're gonna ask them to provide a service maintenance agreement and say, for X amount a year, we will come down, get your pool ready to be opened and prepare it with the proper materials and all of that stuff. It may be that we decide not to go with that. We may say, hey, train our guys instead and we'll do it, but we wanna at least include that kind of pricing in the bids so that we know what that can be going forward. So hopefully this new design helps us last the next 50 years.
If we're gonna pay somebody to go to school, learn how to take care of traffic lights, we need people trained on how to do this stuff too.
Yeah, well,
Well, like I
Maybe an
say,
option.
the individuals that, it took us a while to get there, but we've got 3 really good pool companies that have been extremely helpful, extremely detailed, and have very good specifications moving forward.
We're just looking at that right there, that looks just like the front of the old pool we got right now. Looks just like it.
It's a little bit different.
Well, you might put a couple more sheets of vinyl on there, but that's about it. The bathhouse, the restrooms is the same place, the storage is the same place as it is now.
I'd have to show you the plan, so I can't talk without pointing. So this component here is the bathhouse, and then this is the existing storage, and then this larger element is the pump house. This area here, because you're kind of looking at a flat elevation, is the concessions beyond. So in the site plan, this is the concessions.
Is it where it is currently
Yes.
now?
Yeah. The only thing that we're redoing with the concession and that sitting area is we will do a new roof over this area that will create that canopy area of entry where you have that section of canopy now. It'll be all one structure. This will be the bathhouse, and this is the pump house, and this is the storage, which is, and then there will be a ramp entry. We'll have ADA parking over here, and we put the ADA parking over to the side because obviously the hill, this is our friend, and we don't have to ramp. We can basically grade this area and then do a sidewalk. So what that does is it brings you into that center area in between the existing bathhouse and the concession, and you will actually come in at mid-level and then ramp up or ramp down. And bringing this new entry for ADA parking and access, you're halfway there, but in doing the ADA ramp, you will come from the pool, hit the landing, and then come down and around for ADA access to the restrooms.
which we do not have currently. We have a porta potty at the top of the pool next to the kiddie pool, and that serves as our ADA accommodation.
And it works well. Who seconded
Any
it?
other questions while I'm here? But the flip side, the good side, is in talking with the CDBG folks, they were very open to moving. It's just the phase one and the time frame. This project can be done in a year's time. It can be done, finished, and completed by next year. It's just our concern is if they move the money, will they have to do phase one environmental? And we don't know yet.
Anything else on the pool design or site plan? Any questions about that project? Or
We
back
will-
to the community center,
We
anything on
will
that?
actually be ready to go to bid in less than 2 weeks with the pool. That's where we're at. So it's like hurry up and throw the brakes on.
Mhm.
Seems like we're just doing a lot of cosmetic work
As
rather
far-
than doing new stuff.
As far as the pool,
As far as that right there.
no, the bathhouse is completely new. Completely new.
Same location,
Yeah, it's
same
the
location. We're
it's
not
the same
moving the location,
because
any,
of-
but it's new buildings.
Yeah,
So you're tearing down what's there now and
yes,
you're
as
building.
far as the bathhouse.
So you're not just going in there and doing a remodel.
Oh,
It's
no.
a tear down and it's
The-
brand new buildings.
The bathhouse,
The bathhouse part.
unfortunately, I, didn't read, that's the site plan as far as the rendering. The bathhouse will be completely gone, and the reason it's there is right next to the main sewer and manhole. So that's why it's going back where it is. But we will have obviously a women's restroom, a men's restroom, but we'll also have a family restroom that, mom can take the kids in as well. So there are these three new components there. And then as far as the concession, it'll be rewired, replumbed with a new roof. And then as far as the pump house and the storage, there's not really any need there other than just a new roof to cover the whole area. So, but the most important component, which is the bathhouse and ADA accessibility, will be met.
What about the pool itself?
That is the resurfacing, rework component that I talked about with the pool companies. It will be completely repaired and resurfaced.
New liner and all of that kind of stuff?
As far, it won't be a liner per se as a membrane, but it will be a system that will cover, coat, and repair everything that's there and seal it.
And just so people know, the extent of that is, we literally have pieces of the concrete pool falling out into the water during season last year. So it's more than just we're gonna throw some paint on it. There's some work to be done on it. And we did get a price for completely digging out all of the concrete and pouring brand new concrete. And I think that came in at about 1.8 million. So to repair the concrete, those kind of estimates are gonna be more in the 300,000 range. So that is what's gonna happen, is all of that old concrete's gonna be busted out, new some rebar, some structures.
But basically, where the holes are, those will be repaired. But we will be taking everything off and down to the original concrete, and then the coating after the repairs will come in and be applied.
So it's a liner, but it's made out of concrete. Does that make sense?
Change your design
Like it
to
is
have
now.
demo, or would you stick with what you have?
We had talked about just leaving it as is, because the bathhouse and the requirements to kind of upgrade plumbing and wiring.
So the
we're-
1.6 will go to the bathhouse and all of that?
Yeah, it'll go to the total project.
How old's the pump and all that
I heard a beep.
at the pool?
From the 70s?
50 years.
So it'll be replaced as well?
That component will not, but the wiring, servicing that, the plumbing servicing that will be.
Watch me.
Now, I think that
If I
pump
start going out, get in and come out.
changed out. The main pump is.
You up for that?
Sure, I'll do whatever it takes. I think Sean might be more.
But everything leading to that will be new plumbing, piping.
The biggest problem we got into that pool over the last few years, that pool has been there so long and has leaked so much that it's going into the ground and pushing that concrete out, and then you're getting more leaks. So that's one thing we need to look at on this new modification, make sure that stuff is not going to leak.
And that's, like I say, that's where we're repairing the holes that are now in it, at least
That we started doing it?
the substructure.
And we started doing it.
No, that'll be
What
after
we're waiting on,
bid documents.
big dog. That $1.6 million.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm moving on to the budget now. We can change the budget tonight. We can change the budget technically before we do final reading on June 2nd. The only thing we can't change is that we are advertised as having a public hearing June 2nd. So the budget public hearing will be on June 2nd in our next meeting, whether we make more changes to it or not. But that public hearing will be June 2nd. I just wanted to tell you some of the things that have happened since the first reading when you all passed it. Our life and disability premiums for employees, we renegotiated those to provide, we got a little bit better value on the life insurance, a little bit less in premium, but adding guaranteed coverage, like $3,000 worth of guaranteed coverage on a spouse and children. So that's now included for all employees. So it's a little bit better benefit, a little bit cheaper cost. We had a grandfathered in policy since before I was here. We could not get people to answer questions about it. We were worried if we ever did have claims to file on it that there would be issues with it. So we kind of wanted to get away from that particular policy anyway. We ended up finding one that had a little bit better coverage and was a little bit cheaper, so that we were able to increase the disability. And I can't go into specific details about this, but in the last year we have had multiple employees that would have taken advantage of a disability policy had the city offered one that was long-term. What the city's always offered has only been short-term disability. So for 6 weeks, the employees could get a $200 a week benefit. The city was paying for that premium, $11 a month or something like that. We never had an employee use it in the 20 years I've been here, maybe 1 or 2 times, because the benefit was so low that there was nobody can afford to go off on, I mean, they would use their sick days, they would do anything besides use that. So basically it was wasted premium. Now the disability policy we have covers both short-term and long-term. It's $1,000 a month. It's still not a huge benefit, but at least it would have covered a couple of the employees that we had in very hard situations this last year. So I think it'll be a more usable benefit. It did make the budget change about $400 a year overall for all employees, but I thought that was enough of a gain that was, worth doing. So that's one of the adjustments in the budget since the first reading. The second adjustment is I included the Board of Ed's budget in the big overall document, and the utility boards. They had approved and sent their budgets in. Both of those are component units of the city in our audit, which means that we do have, when we approve the Board of Education's budget, basically when we pass this budget on June 2nd, we're approving the Board of Education's budget as presented by Rodney today. Here's the full document if anybody wants to look line by line, which is, what I sent you in your budget document is a summary showing all expenses, all revenues for each one of their funds. This goes into a lot of detail. So if anybody wants to look at that, I have a copy of that. But when you approve that city budget, you're approving the Board of Ed's budget. Utility board budget, we don't approve that, but the state does require it be presented in our budget when we get approval from the state. So that's why it's in your budget document. So that's the second change. The 2 things that I was hoping to have a discussion about tonight, one is the playground resurfacing. We did have to send a letter back to insurance today. John took care of that as the safety director for the city. The loss control survey, we kind of filled you in that temporarily Sean went out there and provided some temporary surfacing in there just to kind of fill in the holes that they required. That'll get us by for a little while, but they're going to want to know what our plan is, whether we're going to resurface that playground or not. If we're going to resurface that playground, we probably need to talk about that in the budget. I'm totally fine with us passing the budget just like it is and then us taking bids on what it will cost to pour in place because we know it's going to be above the bid level. We are also allowed, and then amending the budget at that point when we select a bidder, we are also allowed to pull one off a purchasing network. So we don't have to take bids. We're allowed to go back to the same contractor that did it the first time and said, hey, what's your cost now to resurface it? And because they're part of a cooperative purchasing network, that meets our guidelines for being able to buy directly from them. So those are the 2 options on that. And then the other thing, Joanna has some mesh materials that she's wanting to buy to do one specific repair, but it may be something that we use in other places also. So those are the 2 items up for discussion that I know about. Obviously, this is your all's time. If there's anything else you want to change or add about the budget, now's the best time to talk about it so that I can have a nice, fully presented, clean copy to give you on June 2nd before you have final vote on it.
Well, I'll talk a little bit about what I want to add in my budget. For the most part, I think pretty much most people know that High Street, where we put in the new sidewalk, the creek is up right against the road, and it is actually washing away the underground of that road, and it's going to completely fall in. And so we need to do road repair. And so what we have found is called Fleximat. We have actually gone to Knoxville. We've looked at a few different locations that have used this. This is a very impressive product. It is also TDOT and TDEC approved, so it's good for blue line water places and everything else like that. And what it does is that it actually put down a mat that has meshing with concrete blocks in it, and so it's a netting that will actually stop the erosion. But what happens is that it'll actually let you grow your grass right through the mesh, and so you'll end up being able to mow this. You can put a lawnmower and everything right on it, and it'll keep the erosion from taking place. And so we want to purchase this product to put on High Street, all the way down the one side and up on the other side of the bank, and that will hold the road where it needs to be and the water that's coming from the pond where it needs to be. Obviously, it is a bit expensive to do High Street. The Fleximat will cost about $55,000, and we want to purchase probably an additional $30,000 just to have in the streets department. There's a number of stormwater and sinkholes and drainage issues that we have on Highway 68 that needs to be repaired, and so we want to have some of this extra to be able to repair those. But that we want to just come from our budget, and so we're just asking for an additional $55,000 to do High Street, just to make sure that we don't lose that entire road.
Which budget are you asking for that from?
And I'm okay with it being State Street Aid or general funds. Of course, I'd prefer it to be in general funds, but I can take it from State Street Aid.
So just so you all know, we are taking $300,000 out of general fund balance already on this budget. It is not balanced. We have more expenditures than we do revenues, so we're taking $300,000 out of fund balance as it's presented now. So that would mean taking an additional $55,000 out of fund balance for general fund. In State Street Aid, there's a fund balance of around $200,000. That is kind of already calculating in what the matches will be on the grants that we've obligated, so we do have the flexibility of probably around $200,000 in State Street Aid.
How is that installed? Did they come and install it for that?
Yes.
They come and help us install it.
They have an engineer that will actually come and be with us the entire time that we're installing this to make sure that it actually is installed properly. And so we're gonna do the FlexMat Plus, which allows the vegetation to actually grow from underneath it. And then there are some, if you need extra anchoring, they actually have these extra anchor bolts, anchorage to hold it in place. But he says it almost never is needed, that it just, so. This is basically what we're gonna do right there.
Which pocket you want to take?
Yeah.
What's the history on that? I mean, have they got
How
as
long
far
has
as
it been in business?
I don't know how long it's been in business, but the first job we looked at has been in place since 2019, and it is perfect. I mean, and there's all the water from the westbound mall comes through that area, and I mean, they've got like a 6 foot by 6 foot outlet, and he said it's a raging river when it comes out, and the stuff is still holding in place, so.
Well, and the way we found out about this stuff is we had the engineer on the original High Street project come down, and David had a plan for, I think I can kind of push the creek off of the, right up against the road. And the guy said, that's exactly what needs to happen, and I would also recommend putting this mesh fabric in there, that it would help with the erosion control. So that's how we kind of find out about it in the first place, was an independent engineer recommended this product and said that they had used it on other TDOT projects.
so with their engineer coming for installation and things like that, if something were to go wrong, how long, are they gonna make it, how do they make it right? What's the?
His goal is to make sure that we get it installed properly, because he said his name is on the product, and they want their product to be represented well. And I feel like after talking to this guy, he is very serious about his, product. I mean, he's gonna make sure it's done properly, make sure the compaction's right. He went through the whole spiel with us, so.
Is his services part of the product purchase?
Yes, it's not an additional fee, it just
Yeah,
is part of.
I thought it was. I just wanted to
And they're
verify.
asking to engineer the whole area the way it needs
us, basically, it's a shop drawing. Basically, they'll sell the product, and then they'll provide a shop drawing on how to install it, and then it sounds like they'll inspect the installation, if I'm understanding correctly.
So this is just gonna be on the slope on the actual road
So
side?
it'll go all the way under the water and up on the other side as well, so it'll, because we wanna keep this water off of this roadway.
Yeah,
What's gonna happen is we're gonna remove that curb from the tile, from the culvert to Willow Creek, and then he's gonna design it where it's got 18 inches of just the fabric and no concrete on it, so we can lay it down and lay asphalt over it and put a curb back in. He said that's the best way to lock it in on that side, and then on the other side, as it goes down and comes up, it'll tie in above the level of the road down through there with a 18-inch ditch. He said put 18 inches of material in that ditch and cover it up, and that locks that side. Tow it in.
what expenses do you foresee on top of the actual purchase of his services and this product?
Dirt.
You'll be able to find some of that, shouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. We've already got some found on it, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just some of the backstory, I had asked David about this a couple of years ago. When Richard was here prior to that, I noticed that, the curbing that they had recently installed was starting to sag.
Yeah, it's starting to
Richard and I
undercut
went out
pretty
there and
good.
looked at it in Buster, and it was kinda eating under the road, and just in the 2-3 years that I've been here, it's gotten worse. I mean,
Yeah, it's
kinda
undercutting bad.
Gradually eating that road out, so I think the fix before that had been, throw some riprap, some chunk rock in there with a little bit of cement, kinda shore it up, that, water eventually gets behind that.
It's gonna move it.
It'll have to be addressed sooner.
We feel that this is a fix and not a temporary one. This should last for years. And we really don't mind taking it from State Street Aid. Usually we're told, don't touch that account because you need it for your grants and your matching and all of that kind of stuff. And so we're just presenting it that this is the project. We're gonna do it either way. But I just wanted to present it to everybody.
I think it needs to be done, and the application and where it's at, I think that will be a very nice fix for it.
Yeah.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, so I can put it in the draft, and then you all can vote on it in the June 2nd meeting. Sounds like State Street Aid. Okay.
What's the lead time on that? They have it in stock?
They'll have it, when we order it, they'll have it 2 weeks.
Well, we still got to talk about this a little bit because they're saying that they're a sole source provider. I've never been able to get that to fly with our auditors ever. They always want us to bid something out because they'll say there's a similar enough product that we should bid it out. We can still choose to select that product even if it's not the low bid, but I think our safest bet would be to run the ad on it and just take bids on it. They may be the only one that even bids on it, but you can still choose a superior product even if it's not the low bid. So we're not locking ourselves into having to pick something that's substandard. So it might be a month before we can get it by the time we bid it out.
to get the bridge open.
Well, it's gonna be,
Yeah,
it's gonna be August.
Give you time to work on the bridge,
August
yeah.
before
Just
so-
guessing, it's gonna be August before we start that project.
Yeah.
project, yeah.
So.
Anyway, because,
So the
we gotta
playground
wait on the
surfacing.
water to dry.
Any thoughts on playground surfacing?
I think you need to replace it with what's there.
I do too,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
I think
I'm
that's
very
gonna
glad
be
y'all
the
feel that way.
long-term best investment.
Okay, so do we want to bid it out? Do we want to just accept a price off purchasing network? We did already get quotes from the person that installed it originally. Sean, what did that come in at? 65 for both of them? About 65 for both of them.
Tell you that straight, Steve.
I was about to say the same thing. Thinking that's State Street Aid.
It's a form of paving,
That's right.
No.
Okay.
and there's a lot of
So
traffic.
basically, that's basically
That's funny.
that's basically added to the recreation department 44,400 line 937, which is the improvements line. So that's where I'll add that in the next budget draft. Are there any other changes to the budget that you all know about or that you want me to incorporate before the June 2nd meeting? And again, if June 2nd something else comes out and we can't vote on it at final reading, that's fine. We still have the last meeting in June. It's better for us if we do it in the June 2nd meeting because the state approves it more quickly, but anything else in the budget that anybody's knows about now.
Nothing to know about.
Okay.
On the playground resurfacing, is there like, what's the warranty on?
Typically, they expect you to have to replace it every 10 years. Engelman Park has been way longer than 10 years. I think that we're only at 8 or 9 years on the pirate ship playground. I can look back and see for sure, but
That 65,000, is that their installation as well?
that is only ripping out the top surface of it. Like the border around it is still fine. It doesn't have to be redone. And the bottom spongy material that's under the pour in place, that is undamaged and can stay in there. So that is literally just the stuff. It's like a heated process, and the reason it's called pour in place, it's poured in place. Like it's like a liquid, and then it solidifies.
So I guess that is their installation.
Yes, I'm sorry. It does include installation. That was an easy answer, and I gave you a big, long, rambling answer. So
The
yes.
problem with the park down there where the vandals went in there and cut it out, cut that shark out and
Cut
all
my
that.
sharks out
There's a
right
whole
off
lot of
the bat.
vandalism on that part because it's down there by itself.
Okay. So moving on from budget, I was just reminding everyone we do have an election on June 12th, and early voting has already started. It started last Friday. It's all this week in the basement at City Hall. It's all next week in the basement at City Hall. Weekdays 9 to 5, Saturdays 9 to 12. Schedule of fees. In your pack. Vote.
That's right.
Oh, be alive and vote. Schedule of fees. We have to, anytime we change a fee inside the city, we have to adopt the new schedule of fees by majority vote of the board. So I wanted to tell you about this, and then I would probably add it to the June 2nd agenda. The street department, when they do an extra load of, is it brush and demo or any kind of extra load? It's 75.
Brush demo is gonna vary, we talked about that the other day. Brush can be covered with $75, but demo, I think, needs to go up quite a bit because.
Varies by weight, because
Well,
we're paying
not
landfill
only
costs on it.
varies by weight, but we can put about 3 full dump truck loads in one of our dumpsters, and that's probably gonna cost us $450, or maybe a little more by the time we get it, picked up and hauled off, so we need to adjust that cost to what it costs to haul it off.
So we need to adjust that schedule of fees because, a couple years ago it was $25 a load, and now we've increased it to $50 a load. So we're going to do $75 a load for the brush, and then we'll just put on the demo, it'll be estimated by, because anybody is allowed to also just load up their own demo and drive it to the landfill. Or if they have a contractor doing demolition on their house, they rent a dumpster, or they have the contractor haul it off for them. It's not like we're their only option. It just happens to be we will take it curbside, but we can't go in the hole on it. We can't be giving them a private loan because we don't charge enough to cover even the landfill cost, much less the labor and the gas and all of that with it. So that new schedule of fees will be on the June 2nd agenda. We'll be adding it to that with those new amounts on there. And for demo, it's just going to say we're going to give them an estimate up front when we look at it as to what we think the landfill cost will be, and that's what they'll have to pay. And they do have to prepay those fees before we pick up those extra loads for them, because it doesn't work if you don't do it prepay.
Is this contractors taking advantage,
We've
or?
almost eliminated the contractors. I don't know the exact numbers on the budget, but last year we were well over $100,000 at this time on just the landfill disposal part, and I think we're less than 30 now. So, the gates, everything we're doing is really paying off, but there's a little bit more we could do to, and we still have the occasional person that's doing a remodel that piles, a full dumpster load of stuff at the road and expects us to pick it up for free.
They get one load for free. Sorry, we should say that. Their first load of every month is free. If they put a load of brush, if they put a load of demo, the first load for everyone is free every month. But after that, we charge, if it's more than one truckload, we charge a fee for it.
Make sure the schedule of fees is more than they can rent a dumpster for. I guarantee you it needs to be. Yeah, it needs to be up.
I don't even know at 75 that will be the case.
Oh, I promise you can't.
Yeah. I
There's
would
no
say
way you
dumpster
can
rent's
rent it.
110.
75 just to cover the cost.
For us to drop a dumpster anywhere, it's gonna cost you $250. No joke.
So should we do $100 on the extra load?
Well, I'm good with just estimating the cost as we go.
As we go. Okay.
In case the price goes up.
Because a dishwasher will weigh a whole lot more
Yeah,
than
that's true. That's true. Yeah. Okay, and the last thing I had on my report, time and date for the July meeting and the workshop. The reason I'm asking this is because this is an election year, so the charter says that unless it falls on a Sunday, we must have a meeting July 1st at noon to do the swearing-in ceremony. So that means all the new people are sworn in. Typically, we go ahead and do our appointments in that meeting, our appointments of department heads, our appointments of commissioners. Since we do have some new people coming in, maybe we don't wanna do it that way, maybe we just wanna do the swearing-in ceremony and still have a regular meeting on July 7th. I just need to know what you all want to do.
If it ain't
And-
broke, don't fix it.
So do everything July 1st, is that what you're saying?
That's what I would
Is
do.
everybody good with doing everything July 1st and not having a meeting on July 7th?
I won't be here July 1st, so
So you really want us to do it all on July 1st and then not be here?
as long as I'm still in streets when I get back from that's all
The
that
record may
really-
reflect, that is
You
what
can,
she has asked
you can
for.
still be there, but I can't promise you David will be. Somebody might steal him away.
They try.
He knows that I would murder him.
So then my next question is, if we advertise July 1st, not have July 7th, the workshop that month falls on the 28th. I think that might be a good time for us to do a little bit of strategic planning, since we will have some new members of the board. It might be a good time to kind of talk about some of these projects. Hopefully we'll be able to give updates on the pool project and the community center at that point and kind of have a direction of what we're going. So I'm wondering, do we want to do like a noon meeting instead of a meeting in the evening at 5 o'clock? It doesn't matter to me, I'm
On
here
which
either way,
day?
but
I think you need to have
July
lunch.
28th, Monday, July 28th.
I think we need to have lunch.
Do a lunch meeting
Yeah.
that thing? Sure you do. You won't have to suffer through it this time. We have time to talk about that July 28th meeting. Since I know about July 1st, I'll advertise it as that, but just kind of put that in the back of your mind. I do also have a couple of things I'd like us to look at in retail development. We do have 2 or 3 tracts of land that really could use some professional marketing, and we have some options on that I want to talk about. So kind of a strategic planning, bigger picture meeting that July 28th. So be thinking about whether you want to move that up to a lunchtime meeting or keep it at 5 and just bring in snacks and
Meeting at noon.
July 1st at noon. And if anybody has any major changes you want put on the agenda, you need to let me know, because I usually do kind of type that out and we figure out who all's making the motions and everything ahead of time, because it is a very complicated meeting. There's so many actions that have to be taken, so. Alright? That's everything I had, Mayor. Long.
Wake up.
Okay. For the June meeting, we will have minutes and distributions. We'll also have public hearing for our 3 ordinances. The zoning ordinance on final reading, the budget ordinance on final reading, and the Rose Lane alley closure on final reading. We also need to adopt the 2025 Monroe County Natural Hazard Mitigation by resolution.
That enables us to get funding refunds back from FEMA if there's ever a natural disaster or anything. We have to be part of the county's natural hazard mitigation plan. Myself and Derek Ingram and Kevin Watson attended those meetings as they developed that plan.
Does it obligate us to do anything?
Good meetings. And if, I do think we have to pass the resolution to be part of it. It does say that we're gonna work with them, like Chad Lemming will email us anytime there's a natural disaster, and we try and get those numbers together for him, and Eric does this for the utility board too, and we send them back to him. Do you notice anything in the resolution that gives you cause for concern? Mr. Jim Stutz, I never ask a
No,
question
the
unless I
plan.
know the answer already.
The plan's.
Oh, you wanna see a copy of the plan? Okay, I'll put that in the,
Adopted the budget, you know.
yeah, when you haven't looked at the budget yet? Okay, I'll put a copy of
Especially in
their, I'll put a copy of their plan in the packet for the next meeting, before you have to vote on it.
Yeah. If it's gonna obligate us, you know, are we taking on any financial obligation? We have to provide any people for anything that's going on, we have to open our
EOC at any particular time.
arbitration center if they ask us to, that kind of.
I will get a copy to everybody before that next meeting. And I'll make sure John Cleveland looks through it too.
Moving right along, department head reports. Jonathan Campbell.
Well, let's see. I guess the biggest one that's most visible are the High Street townhomes up here. The second building is going up. They've got it framed up now. Not complete. Haven't done the framing inspection, but it's coming along pretty quickly. So there's that project going. The upper portion of Willow Creek, I drove it today. The developer, Mr. Jerry Pillow, had submitted have infrastructure going in, so he's got his sewer lines in, he's putting his electric in, he's got, the storm drains have been in for years. But basically, he's got the grading, work going on for the road. Now, he doesn't have anything done yet as far as his base layer, it's not down and compacted, but the subgrade's there. So that one should be moving forward. Again, that plat can't be approved by the planning commission until either the bond is in place or the work is complete. So, but it's good to see that project moving forward, because, we talked about that a lot over the last few years. Not a ton of available housing in Sweetwater other than remodels and flips and double wides. So this will open some new avenues for housing. So I'm excited to see that moving forward finally. Still haven't heard anything other than some whispers that they're gonna move forward out there behind Burger King, that they're gonna, get with Sweetwater Utility Board. The owner / developer had emailed Eric at, SUB and said they were ready to move forward, but still haven't submitted a site plan on that. But you never know, maybe their engineers are working on them and they just haven't got it completed yet, so there's a little bit of hope there too. And as always, still not heard anything, from KFC, on that one. Just kind of keeping my fingers crossed there. I mentioned maybe first quarter of this year to start moving some dirt, and middle of the year, middle of next year be done, 2026. But again, I haven't heard anything from them formally.
Did they buy that land? They did buy that land out
They
there.
bought the land. Originally, there were actually two parcels there in that corner. They bought both parcels and combined them. They worked with AT&T on an old phone line, utility line easement. And they've got money. They've got skin in the game. And they've got
They
some
spent quite a
lines.
bit moving the gas line.
Yeah.
And they've
Cost a
got,
lot to go around the back there.
yeah, and supposedly they've got equipment on site in storage here in Sweetwater. So I do think their intentions are to build. I just don't think they're in any great hurry to do it.
All right. Thank you, John. Eddie?
Everything moving around smooth. We just getting ready for the summer. We're partnered up with the library. We're doing some reading programs with them. We're also doing a program. We're gonna try kind of like a pilot program this summer. We've been wanting, I've worked with Commissioner Stutz before. We've been wanting to get a summer camp started for the kids. And we're gonna be doing like pop-up summer camps this summer. We're gonna be doing, different areas like trailer park, Parks and Rec, different places like that. Just kind of see the feedback we get from it, and if people, if it's something we'd be interested in. Working with the fire department and talk briefly with street departments and everybody about it. We'd like to try one day this summer, and I know everybody's got busy schedules, but I've got Gil and Franco trying to coordinate. Do like a little program called Hands on Trucks, and everybody brings one of their pieces of equipment, and they would go to the rec center and have it, and just make it available for kids, something like that, to come by. Just trying to get the kids involved, to buy into the community, because unfortunately, everybody in here knows that if the kids aren't busy doing something positive, they're gonna be doing something else. And just for the record, I was really shocked when I talked about people peeing in the pool. I believe several in this room has probably done that.
We put some dye in this next one when we get it going. That way when they pay in there, it show up.
That way I can always tell because the water will get warmer.
Yeah.
That was a sign to move on to another spot.
Yes, that's right.
That's all I've done.
You know, I was thinking with the pool closed, there's going to be a large,
That's what we were kind of thinking. We're trying to
and
pick up
I'm
the
not so
slack
sure
there.
we shouldn't hire a part-time person to kind of look after that splash pad.
That splash pad's gonna be packed. I think.
It's
We
going.
have actually had lifeguards allocated at the splash pad before at different times when we knew we were really packed. So that's not a terrible idea if we had some
We've already had to climb
lifeguards.
the wall up there 2 times.
Yeah.
And just trying to find a better spot.
And they're going to be larger kids too.
Yeah, we're gonna try to make that.
So that might not be a bad idea to have some
It's open and
supervisor.
rolling.
Well, it's on camera, so if we have anything, a whole lot going on, it's on camera.
And I'm telling you, Engelman Park stays booked all summer long. All 3 pavilions all the time. So
All right, thank you, Eddie. John?
Everything's going smooth, business as usual, still trying to get inspections knocked out. Keep everything
got help all line, everything filled?
Sounds good.
Are you gonna take the fire truck around like 4th of July and spray kids since we don't have a
They
pool?
always do that.
Well, it says we don't have a pool, like the
So we got
Monday.
bigger water guns ordered.
Mhm.
We have fun with that. So
Yeah.
Sean?
Well, we've kind of already talked about all my stuff. Now, we opened the splash pad on Friday. I noticed Friday morning during the day, I didn't see a lot of people there. And I did come back by about 5:30, and the place was packed. Looked like every pavilion had a birthday party, and they were all on the pad. And so, of course, it's rained every day since we opened it up.
They're still there.
They're still there.
Yeah. David, I think we talked about everything for you too.
We did.
Oh, yes?
Now all we gotta do is execute.
Okay. All right, thank you for being here. We'll see you Monday night. We are adjourned.
Hey, Eddie, you must be part of the reason the polls haven't been